This video is going to help you to plot straight line graphs, also called linear graphs, and we're just going to have a look at two questions from exam papers which are all about plotting these graphs and making sure you can get full marks. So the first part of this question, if you have a look, this question is split into two pieces, part A and part B. Part A asks you to work out values, part B asks you to work out where the line is going to go on the grid. So it's a sort of multi-part question which the first part is going to lead on to the second part. So what we need to do for this sort of question is we need to use this rule here. Always look for a formula or a rule that you can use to work out your coordinates. And if you notice, what we're looking for, the missing numbers here and here, are y values. They are coordinates which we're using the letter y to represent. Therefore, we need to follow this rule to work out these y coordinates. So, if we look at this rule, what does it say we need to do to x? Imagine we're starting with our x numbers, in this case 0 and 2. What do we need to do with that x number to turn it into the y number? Well, the rule says we need to double it, that's why it says 2x, and then take away 1, which is the rule that we're given, 2x take away 1. And that will equal the y number, the y coordinate. So, this is meaning double the number and then subtract 1. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it? Double 0 and take away 1, double 2 and take away 1. Like that. So we get 1 mark for that. Now we move on to the second part, and I've just brought those numbers down to this second part. It says draw the graph from values from -1 to 3. Well, we've been given the values from -1 to 3. Okay, it does mention that the x value should go from -1 to 3. So I've got x, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. That's already taken care of for me. All I've got to do is plot these points in the correct place. So if I look at this grid, I've got -1, -3 is my first point that I've got to plot. Okay, you could also write that like this, -1, -3. And the way to remember the order is always along the corridor and up the stairs, or another way to remember it is that x, when you draw an x, it's a cross, and therefore anything in the x row tells you how far across to go. So you're going to start from the origin, which is 0, 0, and it says go to -1, -3. Now I go along to -1, and when I'm trying to come down to -3, I might get a little bit lost in the grid. So one thing that I like to do is put my ruler at -1, and then make sure that I'm putting my cross in the correct place. Then I've got a 0, -1. If we do that one, 0 along, and then -1 down is there. Then I've got a next one, which is a 1, 1. 1 across and 1 up. Like that. Then I've got 2, 3. So that's 2 across and 3 up, which I think is there. And then I've got 3 across and 5 up. So I go 3 across with my ruler and up to 5 is there. The last thing that you need to do is join those points up with a straight line. Okay, make sure that you go all the way across the grid so that you're covering the region that they want you to cover with your graph. Okay, that should be fairly straightforward. Now the next question is a little bit more tricky, because the next question is asking us just to draw the graph y equals half x minus 3. It doesn't give us a table of values. Well, guess what? You're going to use a table of values. There is another way to do it, but we're going to stick to using a table of values in this case. Okay, and basically this is the bit which tells you what your x numbers are going to be. It says for values of x from -1 to 4. So your x numbers in your table have to go from -1 to 4. And once you've got those, you can start using your rule. Now in this case, the rule says what do I do to x? Well, I start off by writing my x out first. That's what I'm going to start it with. These x numbers are the things I'm going to start with. What do I need to do with them to make this rule? Well, it says half x, and then it says take away 3. So my rule, if I write in words, is half x and then subtract 3. Okay, now that's easier if done with positive numbers normally, because you start with the positive numbers and then you can sort of build up the pattern and work backwards towards the negative numbers. So I'm going to start with the 4. Halving it is 2, and then subtracting 3 makes -1. If I start with 3, I halve it, get 1.5, and then subtract 3, I get -1.5. If I start with 2, halve it, subtract 3, I get -2. And you can almost see there's a pattern going on here. I think the next one's going to be -2.5. Let's just check that. Start with 1, halve it, and subtract 3, it's -2.5. So now I can see the pattern: -1, -1.5, -2, -2.5, -3, -3.5. It's always worthwhile checking that your numbers form a pattern. Okay, what we're going to do next is try and plot this graph. Okay, and for that I'm going to need to turn to this grid here, and I'm just going to need a copy of those numbers. So once again, I'm going to copy those numbers over here. This time I'm going to have to do them the other way around. So we've got -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the numbers were these ones. Okay, so the first point I'm going to plot is this -1, -3.5. Okay, so I go to my -1, put my ruler there to make sure I'm on the right grid line, and then -3.5. Next one, 0 -3 is there, and then 1 -2.5 is there. 2 -2 is, let's have a look here, that's a -2. There we go, that one. I think it's worthwhile taking your time just to make sure you're trying to get exactly on the square, because you're only allowed to be out by half a square. 3 -1.5, again I'm going to use my ruler this way around now, because I've got -1.5 and 3, I think that is there. And then 4 -1, which goes there. And once again you're going to draw a straight line through all of those points, going from edge to edge. And that is the graph y equals a half x minus 3. Okay, so the key points are: number 1, use your rule to work out the y coordinates, and the rule will be a formula, but sometimes a worded rule. And number 2, try and remember the rule along the corridor and up the stairs, or x is across. This will tell you how far across to put your coordinates. And a top tip I would say is use a ruler to try and make sure that you're not making mistakes when you're reading the grid.